Good morning. Mission to MarsCraft. This is our greenhouse. Our greenhouse, so a yellow team connected to our greenhouse since we have similar missions. So ours is about from here on, like this whole structure, is our greenhouse. So first of all, let's talk about the solar panels. As you can see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 solar panels. A couple reasons we have solar panels. Number one, it's a really great regenerative form of energy. Obviously, we are connected to the energy department, the power source created by our lovely classmates. However, we think, it's good to have this type of source as well. For one, you want both kinds, right? It's not good to just depend on one energy source. However, we are very happy that we have the electric company's source as well because, as you know, during certain times of years, Mars can experience very severe dust storms, which prevents the surface from getting a lot of exposure, sun exposure. So that's why we're glad we have both. We have these solar panels. God forbid the electric company's power gets cut off. We also have the electric company's power for times of year that we don't have a lot of sun exposure. So sort of a win-win. As you can see, our greenhouse is made of a kind of highly advanced plastic. As we talked about in our proposal, it had to be a really kind of intense, intelligently designed plastic because it needs to be thin enough that sun exposure can be really true and as much as possible for the plants, but it also needs to be thick enough to kind of keep in the atmosphere we want to keep in. It needs to be sturdy and kind of thin at the same time. So it's a highly intelligent design of plastic that we have here. This is our one and only entrance to the greenhouse. We have one airlock for this entrance because we only have one entrance. So one entrance, one airlock. We thought it would be best to, limit as many mistakes as possible in terms of, the atmosphere being released. So we have, it gets depressurized in here. Then we're able to safely enter the greenhouse. So first of all, let's talk about what we're planting in here. So we have pumpkins, we're also growing potatoes and carrots. The reason that we picked these in this area of the greenhouse is, well, first of all, they can grow well together. They can exist together in a habitat well and still thrive. So that's why they're kind of friends in this part of the greenhouse. In terms of why we grew the individual vegetables, well, pumpkin and carrots are really great sources of vitamin C, and all of these are very starchy. They're very starchy kind of vegetables, and especially potatoes and pumpkin, very high in calories. And on Earth, we like to think less calories, but when you're surviving on a Mars colony, the more calories, the better. So we are trying to produce lots and lots and lots of calories to survive. So potatoes are very much so a good thing. As you can see, our plants are doing quite well. Over here, this machine is very important. I'll say this multiple times during the tour, but our greenhouse is in one space. It's one entrance and it's one big space that's all openly connected. So the machines that we talk about are going to be machines that affect the whole area because it's one space, it's one atmosphere. So what this machine does is it's all about pressure. It works very hard to maintain a certain air pressure. The air pressure in Mars is significantly lower than the air pressure on Earth, and even if the gas is being maintained in an appropriate manner, air pressure is still a big thing. We need an appropriate level of air pressure in order for the plants to survive. So this, takes that lower pressure and brings it up to a more appropriate air pressure, a higher air pressure, one that mimics Earth's air pressure in order for the plants to survive, in order for the plants to thrive. So that is the purpose of that machine. As you can also see, we have a really great, strong water stream in our greenhouse. Let's talk about that for a second. We can't show you in our tour. However, if you look at our wiki page, we have some great pictures of our piping system. So, if you dig deep enough in Mars, if you get closer to the core, it's ice, right? So we created a piping system to kind of warm and bring up that ice water, bring up that water in order to provide water for our plants. So it not only pipes the water up, but it heats it so that's an appropriate level for all of our plants. We have about 3 pipes going to this one area, which, like I said, you can see pictures of in our wiki space. That's why we have such a nice, strong water flow. And the plant experiencing the most of this water flow is these wheat plants. You know, wheat, we love wheat, and it makes a lot of things we eat, so we thought it was a really important crop. So let's talk about these machines for a second. These machines, they work in tandem, they work together. They have a nice little marriage that helps us survive. So let's talk about this one first. So what this blue guy does, what this blue machine does, is he really kind of reads the atmosphere and determines what we need more of, what we need less of. He kind of, works really hard to regulate the atmosphere. So if he realizes there's not enough oxygen, well, this see-through green structure is actually an oxygen tank, and this is a hydrogen tank. So this guy works together really hard to figure out what there's not enough of, what there's too much of, and regulate the atmosphere. And he works with this guy, and what this guy does is this guy communicates with this machine to specifically monitor the carbon monoxide, right? So carbon monoxide is tricky. You want a little bit, plants will die if you don't have any, but if you have too much, it can very quickly be very poisonous. So this guy, either through this tank it's attached outside, it might be dumping out carbon dioxide, or if in some rare case there's not enough, it might be putting a little in, but mostly dumping out, right? We really don't want too much carbon monoxide. It's very deadly, and if we have a lot of horticulturists taking care of the plants, if we just have a lot of visitors coming to see the plants, it can very quickly, the carbon monoxide level can get very high. So these two machines are essentially what help us survive. To kind of stay in the realm of machines, this is our water regulation, our water filtration system. So what this beauty does is number one, it maintains, a certain level of humidity, right? In a greenhouse, humidity is something that is very important. The level of humidity is something that can very easily kind of, get out of control. So it maintains humidity, but it also filters and cleans water, right? So even though we are getting water from this core, just like the electricity, right? We don't want that to necessarily be our only source of water if something happens to the pipes. So this is a system that recycles, filters water, very similar to how we do it on Earth. Very similar process, right? So this is a very important source to us for water. Here are some more plants over here. So here we have trees. We have saplings that are eventually going to produce apples. So a few functions for trees, right? Produces apples, produces fruit, food. Also, trees produce oxygen. They produce air that we need to breathe. So it's really important to have trees. It's really helpful. We have some melons over here. We have some radishes. Some more nice, rooty, starchy things, but also some nice fruits. We'll talk more about fruits in a little bit. So this is something, this kind of black-purple structure is something we talked about in our proposal, which we think is very, something that can easily be overlooked when you're thinking about a greenhouse, about the agriculture of a colony, but at the same time is extremely important, and that's kind of like a dry goods storage area. So, it's going to be attached to this plastic dome, but it's going to be its own kind of, metallic material, kind of probably a titanium blend, because the purpose of this structure of this metal is to mimic what almost like what a basement of a house would be. Like, we want that atmosphere. We want a cool, dry atmosphere down here. So down here, this is where we're storing dry goods. Maybe grains, flours, canned goods, right? Canned vegetables, canned fruits, maybe pickled things, anything that you can store in this kind of area. And as we said, we think that while fresh fruits and vegetables are extremely important, having this kind of food storage is equally as important. God forbid something happens to the fruits, something happens to the vegetables, the fresh fruits and vegetables. I mean specifically, this is what is going to help us survive. If we have an entire storage room a storage house of dried goods, of pickled, canned, dry flowers, grains, it's going to make it so that we can survive, right? So, or even maybe just preference, right? A lot of people like things that are jarred. A lot of people like things that are canned, pickled. So this is really kind of key to our survival. It's not only producing the foods, but kind of keeping a storage of sustainable preserved foods. So that's our storage house. Um, last but not least, I want to talk a little bit about our plan for hydroponics in our greenhouse. So the thing about our greenhouse is, we are trying to use mostly, as we talked about in our proposal, a blend of Mars soil and Earth soil. Mars soil is sustainable for plant growth. It's the main thing it's missing is bacteria that is found in Earth soil. It doesn't. There's a lot of wonderful bacteria that's organic to Earth that is found in Earth soil. So while we are mostly using a blend of Earth and Martian soil, we also want to test out planting things hydroponically. I went on a trip to Israel where I experienced an entire farm where nothing was planted underground. Everything was hydroponically grown above ground, and it just seemed very sustainable. It seemed very smart. It seemed like you could really utilize space in a really intelligent way. So we're gonna over here test out hydroponic plant growth. If it works well, we're probably gonna expand it. So the two things that we would grow first would be cherry, tomatoes, and strawberries. The MineCraft program didn't have those, so you just kind of have to use your imagination to visualize the strawberry vines and the cherry tomato vines kind of wrapped around these hydroponic structures, which would be made of either a metal or a plastic. So, if that works, it would be great. We could expand it. So we're going to test out some hydroponic planting, so we might not have to rely so much on soil, which, as you know, can be quite heavy, especially in terms of transportation. So that is our greenhouse, and thanks for visiting.